Hi, everybody. I'm Dan Wells, and I write horror and science fiction and fantasy, and I review games online. Today, I'm going to look at one of my very favorite game series ever, which is Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. I've been playing this one way back since first edition in the 80s. I think I own every single book in second edition. Um, I'd be surprised if there's one I don't have. Missed third edition. Not a huge fan of the dice system they used in that one, but fourth edition is right back to the good stuff. Like a lot of the games I've been looking at, it's a nice big old thick hardback book, and it is a triumphant, in my opinion, return to the game system that I have loved for all these years. They streamline a few things. They make it easier to play. They make it easier to level up. But they maintain the fantastic level up system, which is really fun. So we're going to take a look at that. This PDF here is actually the pre-order preview PDF, so it's not final. So if any of the pages that I show you don't actually match what's in the final book, I apologize. I just have the pre-order preview in PDF form. I've got a ton of their adventures in PDF form, and we're going to be looking at those throughout the year. But today we're going to look at this. So Warhammer is one of the oldest and I believe most famous franchises in fantasy gaming. And so it is likely that you've heard of it before. It is primarily famous as a miniatures game. Warhammer Fantasy, Warhammer 40K. You go into the game store to get your magic cards and you see people playing with little soldiers on a table. Odds are very good that they're playing Warhammer in some form. Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay initially was put out in the 80s, kind of as, I mean, I don't know what actually happened, but in my head I always assumed that they said, hey, this D&D thing's kind of big. We've got a huge fantasy franchise. Let's make our own role-playing game. And so they threw this together, and in the process came up with something that I think is really special and cool. In particular, the some of the adventure supplements and campaigns that have been published for this game are among the best role-playing campaigns ever published by anyone. But like I said, we'll get to those later. So the core game, the Warhammer Fantasy World, is similar to what I said about 7th Sea. It's kind of fake magical Europe. But whereas that one is trying to do a Musketeers, Jack Sparrow, swashbuckly pirate thing, this is doing... Honestly, the way I like to describe it to people is imagine Dungeons and Dragons, but very low magic in the filthiest possible version of medieval Germany, and Cthulhu is there. It is not the big, flashy fighters and wizards and rogues going through a dungeon kind of role-playing game. It is more likely to be a rat catcher and a witch hunter and then, some kind of a mutant who are slogging through the mud trying to stop a chaos cult from destroying the world. Okay? It's a really great, grim, gritty fantasy system that gets down into the mud and the gutter and does a really good job, I think, of bringing that vibe out. Let's take a look really quick at the... Let's flip over so you see that big, and then we're going to take a look at the character sheet, because I love to look at character sheets so you can see kind of how it works. The game uses the same basic characteristics that the minis game uses. Weapon skill, ballistic skill, strength, toughness, initiative, agility, dex, intelligence, willpower, and fellowship. Whether all of those are necessary or significantly different from each other is beside the point. The game uses them all well, and there you go. It works pretty well, in my opinion. And then, of course, they've also got these skills. There are basic skills that everybody can do, and then there are more advanced skills that you just have to get through your career or through something else. A lot of games struggle with this idea that, if I don't put points into charm, can I still charm people? Well, sure you can. Anybody can use charm, even if they're terrible at it. And so this game kind of has that. Bribery, sure, you can attempt it, even if you suck at it. and you can go for it. And so then when it gets into something that you do actually need training for, that's where the advanced skills come in. This is a roll under system, and everything uses d10s, in this case percentile dice. So you will have a basic characteristic, and you will have some ranks in it. And so let's look again at that bribery skill. That's fellowship. So you take your fellowship characteristic, you take however many advances and ranks you've put into that, and then that total is your skill. And then you have to roll under it on dice, on percentile dice. So if it's like 45 and you roll a 40, congratulations, you passed. This game also uses a degrees of success system, where every full 10 units that you roll under your target, you get an extra degree of success, which matters for combat, and it matters for opposed rolls, and it matters for various other things, like how stealthy are you really? Are you just barely stealthy enough, or are you incredibly stealthy? Did you jump just far enough to get over the pit, or did you leap way further than that because you got a bunch of degrees of success? The game also allows for ease and difficulty. So your target number is, your characteristic plus the advances, and that gives you your skill number. But that can be modified by the game master saying, this is really easy, give yourself plus 20 to your number, to the core number, not to your roll. And then that's how it goes. Or this is maybe really hard, so it's your number minus 40%, so it's going to be really difficult, but you might still be able to do it. A starting character, honestly, typically is going to have less than 50% chance in most skills, which is why you kind of want to rely on that easy modifier to boost you up, the very easy modifier. Attempt those things. The game is also very dangerous. The game is violent. And one thing that this new edition does that I really love is called combat momentum. So, combat skill, which is going to be in here somewhere, or maybe it's on the next page. Yeah, so right here, let's say your things. Anyway, combat is done like any other skill. You have to roll under this percentile number, and but it has a momentum system, and it's totally different than the way that Modifius, the 2d20, uses momentum. They just use a similar word. In fact, I don't think they even use the same word. They use advantages. They call it advantages, but in my head I keep thinking of it as momentum. So the way combat works is that anytime you succeed at something in combat, you gain an advantage. If you charge somebody, if you have surprise, if you successfully cause damage, all of those will give you advantage. And each advantage will knock your next roll up by 10%. And so as combat goes, you can build up a lot of momentum. You can see why I call it that. In the course of attacking your enemy. And then as soon as you take damage from something, all of that advantage goes away. It's a nice ebb and flow that kind of helps you steamroll, but then also penalizes you and allows other people to get lucky rolls and balance the footing once again. The combat system also does not have damage rolls for weapons. A weapon simply does a fixed amount of damage, and you will add your strength bonus and the weapon's damage bonus. The target will subtract their toughness bonus and their armor, and then you're done. It can make damage actually very quick to calculate because you don't have to wait for the damage rolls to happen. But it is a very different system, and so people are expecting to roll dice, and if you don't know what you're doing, then you might be confused and say, wait, where's my damage roll? How much does my sword do? Well, it's got a damage bonus right there. So the system itself plays very easily. You've got your core skills, you've got your numbers, you roll under them, and you're done. Where this game really starts to shine, aside from the world behind it, which I love, is the career system. The game is justifiably famous for its career system, and previous editions of this game have had dozens and dozens and dozens, arguably more than 100. I've played enough versions of this game that I should know the actual number, but I don't. Tons of careers. And these careers are similar in some ways to like the careers that you would find in Infinity, where it's a little selection of skills and talents that you have access to, and you get some bonuses, and then you move on and you go to a new career doing something else. Where this one kind of the difference here is that the careers are stupid, which I love. That doesn't sound like it's like it's praise. It's absolutely praise. So one thing that 4th edition did was it took that giant career system and condensed it so that it grouped all of those careers into clusters. So, for example, we're looking at the engineer, and you start. This is a career path. The game uses career and career path kind of interchangeably, although they are two very significant things. So you start here as a student engineer, and then if you advance up, you can become an engineer, and then a master engineer, and then eventually a chartered engineer. Lawyer is the same. You start as a student, you become a lawyer. Let's find one where you start really poor and desperate. Apothecary's Apprentice. One of the famous things about the game is that you used to be able to have a rat catcher, and the rat catcher's still in here somewhere. Anyway, you can kind of see what here we go, a beggar. I love games that kind of throw balance out the window, which is not exactly what this one's done. You know, you still are getting attribute bonuses, you are still getting lots of skills and talents, but the fact that the game is willing to present beggar as a career on equal footing with an artisan or an investigator or something like that is fascinating to me. And so you will start, and your friend will say, okay, I got this character, and they're a duelist, and they've got these guns, and they're great. And then you say, well, I'm a beggar. I have a poor quality blanket and a cup. And that's all you've got. But you can, eventually move up in the career system to become a master beggar or even the beggar king. And then you get all of these fantastic bonuses in how to talk to people, how to manipulate people, how to, hide. They're very good at stealth, all these other things. So I like the career system a lot. Now, what you can see here, this is a career scheme. And I think I compared this to a different game in one of my other reviews, or I compared that game to the way schemes work here. Each class will have different bonuses that they get in the certain things. And so you can see they're kind of coded with this little symbol. So as a pauper, you're going to be able, you can access bonuses in toughness, agility, and fellowship. And then once you level up, then you can access this one, and then eventually this one, and then finally that one. And so you can stay within that scheme of beggar and level up and improve your attributes and improve your skills, and you get advances. This is kind of an experience point system, and so instead of having levels, you just have advances. And at the end of every session, you can say, well, I'm going to put some extra points into bribery, and some extra points into stealth, and some extra points into, my sword skill and things like that. And so you will slowly level up, and the advanced scheme here is a way of saying, oh, you've given yourself enough advances in the right things that you are now eligible to advance. You have completed this career, and you can move on to the next one. The game also absolutely allows you to move to schemes that are completely different. You can go through all of Pauper and say, well, okay, I've been Pauper for a while now. I want to try Duelist. And so you can jump over and become a fencer or a duelist because you've already finished a basic career path, and so you can jump up into this other one. And there's, lots of more details in terms of how you can spend the advances and what things cost and so on, which we won't get into. But you get the sense of how it works. It's a really fun system, and it's also, like I said, kind of a grim, gritty, down in the mud kind of fantasy world. I hope that these pictures are showing you kind of the visual aesthetic of the Warhammer world, where you've got the big goofy hat and the puffy sleeves and the socks that come up and the little garters around your knees and things like that. It's a very, like I said, medieval Germany kind of a feel to it. And that's the base setting. There are absolutely other places. There's an analog to England, and there's an analog to France, and there's an analog to Italy, and there's all these other things. There also, of course, are different races. This kind of bog standard fantasy stuff. Elves and dwarves and halflings and humans. And that is how that works. And the books do a beautiful job of conveying what this world looks like and how it feels to play in it. I just really love the art design, not just of the world, but of the book itself in presenting that world. If you want to see this game played live with kind of sketchy sound recording, my Twitch campaign, we play D&D, and it's called Typecast RPG every Tuesday nights. In fact, tonight we're going to be playing another session. What we did over the holidays on Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve, we didn't want to get together, abandon our families, and we did want to get together and play D&D, but we stayed with our families because we're nice. And what we did is we played a huge all-day session of Warhammer Fantasy earlier in the month, in December. And then we broke that down into like hour and a half chunks, and we aired them those nights. Those are available up on YouTube right now. And I will try, when I post this on YouTube, to link to those because they're great. But I don't know if I'll be able to because I don't know how YouTube works. But anyway, you can get a feel for how it comes across in play, how the system works, how it flows together. Anyway, I feel like I'm repeating myself a lot, so I'm just going to say this once and be done. Warhammer Fantasy is a fabulous system that I've been playing for decades, and this new edition of it is great. I will take a lot of opportunities later in the year to show you some of the other campaigns that have been created for it, some of the other supplements that have been created for it. I think next month I'm going to show you the starter kit, which is what we were using in those other videos. It's the single best RPG starter kit that I have ever seen in terms of the way that it presents the rules and gives you characters and gives you a little adventure that you can play through. It's really phenomenally well done. So I hope you like this game. I hope you want to give it a chance. And anyway, thank you very much for joining me, and I will talk to you later. Bye.